Kia ora koutou. So in my Twitter bio, it says that I'm blessed and cursed by a love of architecture in Christchurch. In 2010, I was an independent architectural historian living here. Architecture had been my passion for more than 15 years, and I'd returned from London in 2007, and there wasn't a single job I wanted in the country. So I constructed my own, initiated my own projects, realising them through partnerships and funding. I did oral history, curated exhibitions, made a short film, and wrote a lot on architecture and urbanism. And then we all know what happened next. September 2010, then February 2011, those earthquakes changed everything for most of us, if not all of us. And it was then that my experience of leadership began. But I have to tell you, I spent that first year failing. I was part of a group of people, a community, fighting and advocating for heritage, for architectural heritage. Not all the dungers, just the really special ones. And we failed. It became obvious during 2011 and into 2012 that the challenge here included, but went beyond the loss of cultural heritage contained in architecture. In 2012, I became part of another gathering, an informal gathering of people joined by their concern for the future of the city. We got together for what we called family dinner. We were artists, architects, academics, thespians, entrepreneurs, and I have to say probably most of us were a little bit at a loss in the post-earthquake context. This was the group who, along with a random futurist from Arup in Melbourne, that conceived FESTA, the Festival of Transitional Architecture. It wrapped around a core concept of students creating light installations that we'd erect in the central city, and that idea was led by two amazing creative people who taught architecture at the University of Auckland, but wanted to bring that concept to Christchurch because we were so clearly in need. And so we were all meeting regularly, developing the idea of FESTA. And this small community turned around and said, well, so who's going to lead this? Who's going to ensure it happens, was funded, supported, that logistics, everything went smoothly, there were personnel and relationships and required permits and health and safety. And they turned to me and said, well, you do it, Jess. It's just as well that this is called leading from the heart, because my head was going, what do you know about leading festivals? Sure, you've organised talks and exhibitions and run Putahi Night Christchurch for a year, but a festival for thousands of people? But my heart said yes. And I think in many instances, that's who leaders are. They're simply people who say yes. So FESTA 2012 happened. Our opening night was Lux City, a city made from light for one night, designed and created by 350 architecture and design students, and one of them's right there. These light installations installed in Gloucester and Manchester Street, and 20,000 people turned up. And I learnt that you don't need to know everything, but you do need to know what you don't know. And you need to work with people who do know, who you can learn from. I learnt the importance of hope, of light in the darkness, of beauty, even if it is temporary. Learnt that lesson of beauty all over again. I learnt that most of the people of Christchurch have a deep, abiding love and strong sense of connection to this place. And we're very happy to explore and enjoy that together, even when it's tinged with considerable grief. The next project I stepped up for, around about the same time, was the Christchurch Town Hall. You may recall that the government's blueprint of the day assumed it would be demolished. I saw us losing yet another important building, an important work of architecture to the bulldozers. But I knew, lots of us knew, that the question of the building's future wasn't a central government decision. We knew it was a city council decision. So a group of 8 of us formed Keep Our Town Hall and crafted a campaign to convince council to fly in the face of the Minister for Earthquake Recovery and to keep it. And council did indeed decide to keep it, and they decided twice, once in 2012 and a new council, led by our current mayor, confirmed that decision in 2013. Meanwhile, FESTA became an annual event, 12, 13, 14, and then a biennial event, because trust me, it's too much doing those things back to back, 16 and 18. All 5 events are variation on the theme of coming together to reimagine, celebrate and connect with our city anew, and to connect with each other. In 2015, Te Putahi, Centre for Architecture and City Making, grew out of FESTA. As an organisation, we recognised that an annual festival wasn't the only way we could grow people and places together. So we transformed into Te Putahi, an independent non-profit organisation that catalyses greater involvement in city making through a diverse and inclusive program of engagement. Essentially, we want to make it easy, desirable and fun for everybody to participate in the shaping and enjoyment of Putahi Christchurch. And since then, we've run over the past more than 5 years, a wide range of programs and projects and events, from exhibitions to the Arcades project to participatory design workshops and projects, speaker series like Christchurch Conversations, tours and guided walks of architecture and the city, and our new annual event, Open Christchurch, which celebrates our architecture by opening it, the most significant buildings in the city to the public for free over one weekend. I look over what we've done, and the first thing I notice is that we've never really done anything on our own. It's always been in collaboration. This photo is from a full-day tour of Māori architecture in Putahi, but we couldn't have done it without the collaboration and support of Matapōpiri, of the architect Perry Royal, of Ngāti Wheki, of the University of Canterbury, Ara, and the Christchurch City Council. I think at this point it's also worth talking about hidden leadership in our communities and in third sector organisations. Te Putahi is like many of your organisations. Behind it sits a largely unacknowledged and hidden leadership in the form of a board of trustees. I know all of us know people, or you may be people, who take on this form of hidden leadership, guiding, strategizing, advising and governing organisations, lending them expertise and time. And I think we should take every opportunity to thank and celebrate these hidden leaders in our city, especially for their service over the past 10 years. There is hidden leadership in practice across our city and across time. Sometimes it's been violently and unexpectedly thrust into the public eye. We can all think of leaders in our community who, through the quakes, the rebuild, the terrorist attacks, and now the COVID-19 pandemic, who have emerged from the back rooms to respond to our collective need for leadership. And they have invariably responded with grace, with perseverance, and with wisdom. Last year, Te Putahi had an extraordinary opportunity to produce a very special event, an event instigated by the celebrated cellist Yo-Yo Ma, who brought his bark project to Putahi to work with Ngāitua Huriri and others to explore how culture actively shapes a better future for us all. One of the 4 events under that umbrella of Yo-Yo Ma's bark project was Waiatakitiwai, which was conceived and led by artist Julia Arnott from Rekindle and Kerepeti Paraone, a musician. They came up with the idea of acknowledging the rivers of Waitaha Canterbury through weaving and song. Te Putahi's job was to exercise our production muscles built up from years of experience producing free events in public space, to work and to simply help provide a platform to these artists and their vision, to work with them to bring the event into being, and we did it in 3 weeks. It was a pivotal moment in Te Putahi's history as I look back at it. It wasn't even quite a year ago. And 2 things really stand out for me and are important in our future. First, it was a te tiriti-based event. It was done in relationship with mana whenua. It involved a tangata whenua artist working with a tangata tiriti artist. Secondly, to Te Putahi, it was a city-making event based on exploring and celebrating the relationship between us who live here and another living system in this place, in this case, water. These two things are now slowly beginning to take shape in our future work, and I have a sense that these two things are, or should be, vital to all leadership in this city. This is a photo I took in the square, just over there, at the second school strike for climate in September last year. Last year, a younger generation stepped up and led two events that asked something of all the leaders in this country and in this city. They asked us to lend our leadership to the climate crisis and to righting the injustices of colonisation. 10 years ago, the earthquake created a crisis that has taken many of us on a journey of leadership. Now we face an even larger, more urgent and worrying crisis. I believe we are ready to step up to this crisis too. Our leadership muscles have grown. All we need to do is say yes.